My perfect husband has no idea that I stalked him for 3 years before we started dating. I'm considering telling him, but I'm terrified of how he'll react. The first time I saw my husband, I was a freshman in high school, and he was a freshman in college. He was walking his dog at the park when he stopped to talk to my older brother because they went to high school together. That was the moment I became hooked. That same day I found his Instagram, his family's social media, and also where he lived, since my brother offered to walk him home while I tagged along. When I got home that day, I knew I wanted him, but of course I was only 14 while he was 18, so I came up with a plan. His younger brother was only 1 year younger than me and would be attending my current high school. I knew I had to befriend his younger brother by any means possible next year when he moves up as a freshman while I become a sophomore, and I did. It took a whole year, and halfway through my junior year, we became best friends. He ended up inviting me over regularly to his house to hang out. This is where I was able to befriend my current husband's mom, and God did she love to talk about him. From her, I found out what college he goes to, his past girlfriends, what he likes, etc. Since I was going over all the time, I was able to formally meet my current husband. He would come over every other week and stay the weekend. On those days specifically, I would wear my cutest outfits to impress him, and also joke around with him a lot. We bonded a lot about a certain sport because he was the school record holder at my school, and I played the same sport. Our talks revolved around that at first, but they became more personal. We talked a lot in his room, and we got to a point where he'd hug me when he saw me. I was so happy, and this filled my delusions. I was convinced he liked me back. It helped that halfway through my senior year he came back during the season to help coach the current high school athletes, which included me. They needed to get some more volunteer work hours in, and I got to spend a lot more time with him. I loved every second of it. We were friends before, but then we became much closer since I got to spend lots of extra time with him after school. Sometimes, he would even drive me home since we lived relatively close. Then, I found out he got a job offer in New York City, so I applied to a college nearby his workplace. I told him this was a coincidence, but it was all planned. We moved together, and being each other's only friends in a new state, we became incredibly close. He eventually asked me out when I was almost a sophomore year of college. Those were the best years of my life, and he made me feel so loved. It made everything I had done in high school worth it. He proposed to me after I graduated, and we just got married almost a year ago. He knows absolutely nothing about how I truly know him, and believes it is fate that brought us together through his younger brother. It's been a wonderful love story to tell, and people get so happy hearing it because it feels like the invisible string theory, or soulmates. I feel guilty when he tells this to people because the truth is I've known him for 10 years, while he's only known me for about 7. I have been debating on whether or not I should tell him, or at least his younger brother, the truth, since the only reason I befriended him was to get closer to my husband. I feel like I used him, and I think he deserves an apology from me, as well as my husband. I will be telling him this Tuesday on his day off because he deserves to know who he married. My perfect husband has no idea that I stalked him for 3 years before we started dating. I'm considering telling him, but I'm terrified of how he'll react. Part 2. I met my husband way before he met me, and my life goal has basically been to get with him. I befriended his younger brother in order to get close to him, and now 10 years later, I feel guilty about it all. I decided to tell him on the 4th of July. After the fireworks ended and we were going back home, I asked him, wouldn't it have been weird if we met each other before the first time we actually met? But we just didn't think of each other as significant at the time? He smiled and turned to me saying, that's impossible. There's no universe where we would have met and I would not think of you as significant. That statement struck me in the heart, because I knew I would soon prove that sentence very wrong, but I continued on anyway. I asked him, what if I told you we have met each other before? Before that time I was introduced as your little brother's friend? He looked at me like I was crazy, so I explained everything to him. He basically stared straight ahead, almost like he was dumbfounded, scared, and confused all at the same time. I started throwing out every excuse and apology I could muster at the moment for about 15 minutes straight when he decided to tell me to stop, and I did. He just sat there and sobbed uncontrollably for about 10 minutes before he finally asked me how much of our relationship and my identity was fabricated according to his liking. Everything I had ever done and said was the truth, except for the fact of how we met. It was all real. He had fallen in love with the real me. Although my friendship with his younger brother was built upon ill intentions, my friendship between his brother and I is now one of the most genuine friendships I have now. He just cried and told me that he does not want a divorce at all, but he does want us to have some time apart so that he could absorb the truth that I gave him. He expects me to tell his brother and mom this Friday because they deserve to know the truth just as much as he did. That's what I was planning to do anyway, so I complied. Then, he just hugged me and cried for about 5 minutes before he packed his stuff, and said that he will be staying at a nearby hotel for now. He knows that he still loves me, but does not know how to react to the fact that the beginning of our relationship was very, very orchestrated. I'm not sure if this could be considered a success because it's not the worst thing that could have happened. I'm free to give him all the time in the world. He sent me a good night and I love you text last night while he was at the hotel, so I guess he's not as mad as he is betrayed. Update: I found out that my husband lied about going to a hotel to stay at and also lied about not wanting a divorce. He went to his family's home instead, told them the entire story himself, probably exaggerated it too to make me seem crazy. His whole family wants nothing to do with me and they all think I'm crazy. He said that he lied about going to a hotel, because he knew if he told the truth I would try to stop him. I don't think I would, but I wouldn't bet money on it. Honestly, I feel so betrayed. I tried to be a good wife by showing him the true me, and this is what he does? I did all this work just for it to end up like this? I think I kind of deserve it. I didn't even tell him in the first place because I felt bad. I had a suspicion that he was catching on to the fact that I knew him for 2.5 years before he knew me, largely because I found out he was keeping my old phone in his work desk. My old phone that has screenshots of a lot of his old Instagram posts, plans in my notes app about him, etc. So I guess he never truly loved me if he can't even get past an honest confession like this one.